Now that sculpture of Gabby's dog Kodo was made by local artist Eric Jones, who using just some snow and his skill was able to bring a smile to Gabby's face.
Good morning, Nick and Anthony. I am outside the Dunkin' Donuts in Allegheny, where a physical altercation allegedly took place between two student athletes and another man in the parking lot right behind me almost 2 weeks ago.
Now, like you just saw in my gameplay, I'm not very good at Fortnite, but these guys behind me are looking to prove themselves at a championship this weekend with the best in the country.
Now, I'm in the middle of Olean right now, just across the street from the police station, where Captain Robert Blosky spoke to me just about how these drugs are getting into the community and what forms you might see them in.
Good morning, Anthony and Tyler. I am here in snowy Allegheny, right alongside the tracks owned and operated by the Western New York and Pennsylvania Rail Company. Good morning, Kurt and Aiden. Welcome to Washington, D.C. I'm just outside Capital One Arena, where the Bonnies are set to take on the Billikens this afternoon. During Black History Month, we celebrate legacies and contributions from across the country, and one local woman here in Olean is preserving this area's own history just down the street. This front porch shake, Monday morning at about 6:15, the Buffalo area experienced a 3.8 magnitude earthquake. That brings us to the end of our show this morning. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm Rich Williams.
And we are really pleased to host Speak On Sisters,
An expression of the pain and struggles Black women face in America.
Can you see? Massacres, homelessness, and racism are national emergencies.
They are the less heard and the less understood and the less listened to.
Performances of poetry, song, and spoken word by women from near.
You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise.
And far.
You were born to fly, to vanquish your fear, to fall in love with this thing called life.
Some on social concern.
Need to get a new view of you too. You're valuable, you're important, you're esteemed, and you're worth it.
And others uplifting. Sharing their emotions with the Bonaventure community.
Everything always works out for those who love.
For SBU TV, I'm Rich Williams. The national opioid crisis hitting home right here in Olean.
A significant uptick in opioid overdoses over the past year and a half or so.
Opioid overdose deaths in Cattaraugus County more than doubled in 2022 to 27 deaths compared to just 13 the year before. Almost 60% of those overdoses from people ages 18 to 34.
Tend to become a little bit immune to it, but it is kind of tough to see, especially because a lot of these people with the opioid overdose, they're younger.
Brian Swift is a EMS certified firefighter with the Olean Fire Department who responds to those emergencies.
I'm at the Olean Fire Department right now, where I spoke to first responders about the importance of using antidotes like Narcan to combat the rising opioid overdose numbers in our county.
And we do different things to kind of mitigate like opioid overdoses.
The Southern Tier Opioid Prevention Program, an initiative first started in 2015, is training the community on how to use Narcan in the event someone they're with overdoses.
People like show a training video, and that's kind of like an online in-person training. And then we also have trainers who go out and train in the communities.
This comes just a month after the Food and Drug Administration approved the nasal spray to be sold over the counter, with the end goal of solving this crisis.
Well, every life's important, so we want to get the education out there, try and combat it the best we can.
For SBU TV, I'm Rich Williams.
How often does a spill like this happen?
Never.
But in this rare case, a derailment and toxic spill did happen. Romy Canitto, a biology lecturer and waste compliance officer at St. Bonaventure, says this spill changes the approach to chemical safety.
Right. Something like this could, in theory, happen everywhere, anywhere.
The derailed train spilled vinyl chloride, a chemical commonly used to make PVC piping and plastic products.
You might end up feeling dizzy. You might get watery eyes. Well, it depends on the amount that you inhale, right?
With the Western New York and Pennsylvania Railroad running right through Allegheny and Olean, concern of a similar spill here arises. Now, I am actually just next to the operations office for the rail company, and just behind me is their rail yard, where I looked into the possibility of a similar derailment and spill like the one in Ohio happening in our area. I called the rail company 3 times this week, but they did not answer my questions about their safety procedures and what chemicals they freight. According to their website, however, they have a safety compliance committee that meets 4 times a year to, quote, report concerns and implement resolutions.
Who makes a chemical is supposed to study that chemical and know its characteristics and know if it's hazardous, and if it's hazardous, why it's hazardous.
Even then, those risks remain low thanks to federal and state regulations.
If you have hazardous materials, you are bound by law to handle them in a safe manner.
For SBU TV, I'm Rich Williams. For over 30 years in the 19th century, thousands of fugitive slaves traveled on the Underground Railroad through New York for a chance at freedom.
Because we need to really relearn New York history.
But today, the story of the Underground Railroad is being re-examined.
So you have these populations of newly and freed Africans, but those pathways started with people here running away.
Lavada Nahone, the interpreter of African American history for New York State Parks, is working to learn more about the Underground Railroad.
People aren't aware of the depth and breadth of enslavement in New York.
The State Parks Department loaned an exhibit called Journey to the North to Della Moore, the director of the African American Center for Cultural Development in Olean.
The goal of the exhibit, and others just like it, are to re-examine some of the history that was misunderstood about the Underground Railroad, which utilized many natural pathways and waterways, just like the Allegheny River behind me.
To let people know that their own area was important to the Underground Railroad.
And slavery also just didn't exist in the South, as New York didn't outlaw the practice until 1827.
2027, we will be celebrating the 200th anniversary that ends legal enslavement in New York.
You could check out the exhibit at the center until Friday, March 31st, with the center open to the public on Monday and Wednesday next week. For SBU TV, I'm Rich Williams.